Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first meeting in our council cycle of the Scrutiny Committee for Place and Environment. Without further ado, I'm going to ask Vice Chairman, Councillor Bergreen, to read out the fire safety announcement.
Thank you, Chairman. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, 1. Leave the building by the nearest marked exit route. Follow the green sign to the assembly point, last staff car park, opposite the entrance to the building. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by officers present after other people have left. Do not return to the building unless told it is safe to do so by an authorised officer. The whole of the council site is a no smoking area. Filming from the public gallery is permitted, but members must please refrain from filming within the council chamber so as not to distract the meeting. Mobile phones must be switched to silent.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. And for those of you in the room and for anyone watching online, my name is Councillor John Belsey, and I'm the Chairman of the Scrutiny Committee for Place and Environment. I'm also the Councillor for Ashurst Wood and East Grinstead South, and I'm joined next to me by my Vice Chairman, Councillor Christian Bergreen, Councillor for Sussex. Welcome to all members of the committee. I'm also aware we have other members who are here as an observer, and I'm also very pleased to welcome 4 members of the Cabinet, including our leader, Deputy Leader, here this evening, and you're all welcome to this meeting. In terms of item 1, substitutes in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 4, I think we are all present and correct, so there are no substitutes. And so accordingly, we have no apologies for absence to note in terms of members of this committee. So item 3, to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Does anybody have a declaration that they wish to make? No additional declarations of interests. So item 4 is to agree by affirmation the minutes of previous meetings of Scrutiny Committees held on the 15th and 22nd of March and 24th of May 2023. And just to introduce this item, just in case anyone has any questions on it, I'm going to hand over to Kevin Toogood, Solicitor to the Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. Most of you will realise this is obviously a newly constituted Scrutiny Committee of this Council, and so a number of members of this committee probably won't have been on either of the previous scrutiny or any of the 3 previous scrutiny committees in the previous council. So I've reviewed the minutes of those 3 meetings, and I can confirm to you all that they are an accurate record of those meetings which I attended, and so hopefully that will help assist you in accepting those minutes as a true record into the council's record of minutes.
Thank you very much, Kevin. So I'm going to ask members to agree the minutes as an accurate record of the meeting. Members of the committee, please just say agreed. So agreed. Agreed. Thank you. Item 5, to consider any items that the Chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I've been notified of no items. So we move straight on to item 6, the District Plan Review 2021 to 2039 update. And to introduce this item, I'm pleased to ask Judy Holmes, Assistant Chief Executive, to speak on this item in the first instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The report itself is actually quite self-explanatory, so I don't intend to speak for very long on this matter. You will see that at the request of the leader, we are asking this committee to consider setting up a member working group to assist in our plan making, which has been subject to Regulation 18 consultation. The objectives of the working group are set out in Appendix 1. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Judy. Do I have any members of the committee wishing to speak on this item, please? If you'd please indicate through the voting buttons. I've got Councillor Henwood, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'm quite interested in this particular working party, and I do have a question whether or not councillors would be able to be observers at this particular working party. We realise observers don't have a vote and they are not allowed to speak unless at the discretion of the chairperson, but it would actually enable more councillors, particularly new councillors, to actually have a comprehension of the whole process. So I would like that to be considered, Chairman.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Henwood. In the first instance, I think perhaps we could seek some legal advice from our solicitor, Kevin Toogood.
Thank you, Chairman. I can see no reason why other councillors shouldn't be permitted to attend meetings of the working group. The current terms of reference are silent on the issue, I believe, and so if you wanted to include something about that in the terms of reference, that could also be incorporated.
Councillor Henwood, would you like to come back?
I just wanted to specify, we're not talking necessarily about councillors on this particular scrutiny, but I meant generally open up to all of our councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any. Well, let's continue the discussion. I've got other councillors wishing to speak. So, Councillor Zeidler had his hand up first.
Yes, thank you. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the officers for this report and to see the progress that's been made on the plan, which is clearly very positive in terms of moving forward. I did listen to the Scrutiny Committee back in March when they said they were continuing, and obviously that has been going on, which is good to see. On the working group objectives, I just wanted to make a clarification though. 2 and 3 of the objectives are very clear that this reflects further work on sites not included in the plan or new sites. But under 1, it talks about proposed amendments to policies. Does that refer to obviously the general policies, but also does it refer to the housing allocations that have actually been made? Because obviously I know our residents are going to be very keen to understand that their representations which were made are being considered, as I'm sure they are, and that those will be effectively being considered.
Thank you, Councillor Zeidler, and you make a very good point in terms of our residents who care passionately about our district and have made their voices heard through the representations. Could I maybe ask Judy Holmes to comment on that, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I can confirm that that is the intention and refer you to the terms of reference, little 1, where it clearly indicates both housing and non-housing policies.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Hitchcock, I saw your hand. I mean, if we can try using electronic buttons, that'd be great, but I know you wish to speak, Councillor Hitchcock.
This is a question for Judy. If you look at item 11 on the district plan review, which is looking at the indicative timeline, why cannot the committee and the parishes be consulted at the same time? It seems to me that we've got a compressed timescale anyway, so why cannot we not do that in parallel?
Oh, sorry, yes, please, please, Judy, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think it's important to understand the due process here. The plan making is a process for the district council, who is the ultimate decision-making body. Well, actually PINS is, but ultimately it's for the council to adopt or not adopt the district plan. And of course, the towns and parishes are important consultees, and as indeed a number of other stakeholders, including residents and obviously developers. So we will want to listen to and take the views on board of all of those parties. And of course, the Regulation 18 consultation has resulted in lots and lots of representations, a huge number, including from towns and parish councils. So it would be right and proper for the district council to consider those representations and consider what they would want to do in the light of those representations, and then go back to the towns and parishes to see if they have any further views, which is actually an additional step and is good practice before we then went to Regulation 19. But of course, there is a commitment there from this council and the previous Scrutiny Committee that we would indeed carry out that step, and we will do that as soon as we can physically possibly do that, following consultation with the working group, which will be made of members from this committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Councillor Peacock.
Thank you, Chairman. It's not really a question, it's just a comment. I was on the previous working group for the consultation, so that was quite a detailed evidence-led piece of work. So I'll be interested to see what additional evidence representations have been made by developers, members of the public, residents, etc., going forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to comment on the report before us, even members outside the committee? If not, I would also just like to thank, mentioned a couple of times that the leader of the council has requested that a cross-party working group comes forward, and I'm grateful for that suggestion, particularly knowing the amount of work that has gone into the district plan to date, and in terms of the refresh, and also to try to make sure that, in light of other consultations with the towns and parishes, but also to give all the parties an opportunity to represent their views through the working group, such that we can be more confident that when it comes to council that we will have, should we say, a positive outcome for residents of Mid-Sussex. So thank you very much for taking that forward. I note the comment from Councillor Henwood regarding observers. I don't think officers have any objection if members of the council wish to come forward, so bearing that in mind, and there may be a few other sort of items that can be dealt with between, that there maybe need to be a few items dealt with between now and the actual meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll go to the Chief Executive.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Henwood, for that suggestion, because I know you've taken advantage of being an observer on working groups we've had in the past, and I do understand that point. I think the only slight discipline we might just need to observe is about making sure that observers are that, and that those appointed to the working group are doing the contributing and the debating, if you like. So there is a discipline around that I think it would be very helpful for officers if those lines are respected. Thank you.
So bearing those comments in mind, we have got recommendations in front of us. We have the recommendation that, one, we establish a cross-party, politically balanced members' working group for the Regulations 19 Submission District Plan, and two, agree the terms of reference which were set out in Appendix 1 for this members' working group. I'm happy to propose that recommendation. I would like a seconder to second that recommendation. My Deputy Councillor Bergreen is happy to second that recommendation. Can I just double check whether we do that through voting through buttons? Yep. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. So if you could now, members of this committee, could please vote on the recommendations. Thank you. For anyone watching online, we're just waiting for the final votes to be cast. I was going to say, so we've got 11 votes in favour and none against or abstained. So that vote is successfully carried and the motion is approved. Thank you very much, everyone. So if we move on to item 7, the Scrutiny Committee Work Programme. obviously there are a number of items that we may wish to discuss within the Scrutiny Committee, but before we go to the debate on the matter, I'd like to ask Kevin Toogood, aforementioned Solicitor to the Council, to introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So, yeah, just a very brief introduction from me to hopefully frame the terms of the debate this evening. I hope the report's fairly self-explanatory. The functions of a scrutiny committee are set out fairly comprehensively in Article 6 of the Constitution and the scrutiny procedure rules, which I'd direct you to read at your leisure. They're also summarised briefly in the report before you. Those functions specifically include the appointment of subcommittees and working groups, as you've just done, and to draw up an annual work programme to ensure that committee time is efficiently and effectively used. Whilst Cabinet and officers have set out some suggestions in this report and some pointers as to what we think are best practice, it's very much for this committee to decide how it can best and effectively and efficiently use its time to scrutinise matters with a view to helping enhance the Council's operation and the delivery of its services. So I hope that's helpful for your debate this evening, and I'm happy to take any questions if that assists the debate as you go along.
Thank you, Kevin. So we have before us a report setting out a number of items which I know will be of interest to our councillors, particularly those set out in paragraph 15. Can we just do it in two ways? Perhaps, are there, just to understand whether any items not set out within paragraph 15 that might be of interest for members to discuss, and we can have a discussion around any of those. And then secondly, in terms of those items, whether there are any particular priorities or items that don't seem to resonate with ourselves. So I think that's pretty much where I'd like us to get to, so additional items and priorities within the existing list. So Councillor Bates, can I come to you first, please?
Yes, okay. Peacock was there first. Yeah, sorry. The item Clare Hall is sort of vaguely mentioned as being to be confirmed. What I would have thought that topic would have been dealt with by the council long before 18th of October. And, you know, I assume it would be one of the first items to be discussed, even on the 18th of October.
I'll leave it to any officers to come to advise me if they want to come in at any point. But I mean, I think we would all agree Clare Hall is an important topic of conversation. I'm not so sure it will be able to be resolved quite as quickly as the time frame that you set out, but I'd be very happy for officers to schedule Clare Hall into our work programme as at the sort of, you know, the earliest opportunity, subject to being able to do so with the, you know, with the sort of mechanics of where we currently are on that. So if I would agree with Councillor Bates that should be something that residents would like to see us ensure is looked at by this committee. Councillor Henwood, please.
Yes, please. I believe our leisure centre is much out of date, and I feel like we need to be looking at this more carefully. I would like to put that on the scrutiny programme because it involves not only our leisure centres, which are you know, approaching kind of, well, what do I say? Not elderly, but and it also involves use of playing fields, provision of playing fields. So, Chairman, I would like us to consider having a up-to-date leisure policy. That is one suggestion. I also have a second, Chairman. I mean, I noticed down here you have parks and you also have green spaces, but green spaces is very limited, Chairman. I want a broader picture because we have no policy up to date on leisure. Can I propose the second one?
Yeah, carry on.
I've just been told that this scrutiny committee look at estates. So I did try to no avail the previous council to look at provision of public conveniences throughout the district. And as most of these are on Mid-Sussex District Council property, I really feel that this is an important issue that should be looked at. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for those suggestions, Councillor Henwood. I think we'll just I'll go round to see other comments and then we can see where the sort of consensus lies. Councillor Peacock.
Thank you, Chairman. It was discussed at the previous scrutiny committee, talking about parking. It's in the minutes. I'm just thinking, obviously the parking strategy was undertaken in 19. There is an annual review of it, but it's not down on the work list. And it would be interesting. I wasn't on that scrutiny committee. The minutes refer to. But it'd be interesting to see development of the estate, expanding car parking services or improvements or consolidation, an update on apps and technology to improve the efficiency of the car parks. I know that was undertaken. It looks like that was undertaken in March, but it's obviously not down for the next 12 months. So,
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Peacock. I think so far we've had some additional items not necessarily on the list brought forward. Councillor Zeidler, were you putting your hand up as well? Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, as well, and apologies, it's just one other for possibly consideration. Within, as I've come to understand better in terms of the plan making, obviously residents, very often the works during development are no barrier to development being allocated, which is quite right because it should be a prevention. At the same time, the one thing that does assist residents is enforcement of planning conditions. And I don't know whether that is something actually for the scrutiny committee or it's for one of the planning committees, but how effective enforcement is, and I do appreciate it's a challenge for officers, is something that clearly does affect residents and might be worth considering at some point, because given the levels of development that we're obviously planning for.
Thank you, Councillor Zeidler. Oh, Judy Holmes, Assistant Chief Executive.
As you'll appreciate, it's very difficult for a scrutiny committee to scrutinise or at least influence or affect what essentially is legislatively national policy. Of course, it doesn't stop you from looking at that, but it is very difficult to understand, to influence, as it's obviously a prescribed process. So I don't think it would preclude the committee from considering it, but we do actually run some enforcement training as well, and it might be that once we've been able to expose members to that training, that we could come back to that matter and see if it is indeed something that scrutiny could add value to. So if it's okay, I suggest that we run the training and then come back to that point again, if that's okay, Councillor Zeidler, through the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Zeidler. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to see something on this list about Burgess Hill Town Centre and the growth area, which, if I understood this correctly, we had like a menu of things to choose from earlier on in the document, and that just seemed to me to be something that's been discussed often in meetings and seems to still be a concern for residents.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Okay. Any other comments in terms of items on the list or other items that people would like to bring forward? I mean, for myself, I think it's important that we get a briefing from Gatwick with the second one-way application likely to come in, and that I'm sure many members on the council would like to hear from Gatwick where they are in that process and how they're working with Mid Sussex and other districts and boroughs. I'm aware, the Parks Master Plan, for example, has been around for some time and is one of the a phased approach over a number of years, and I think it'd be just useful that we can reassure ourselves that that's stays on track over time. So they're ones that are particular interest myself alongside some of the points raised by others. Have we got any final contributions from anyone who hasn't spoken so far? Otherwise, we'll try to draw this together? No other contributions? Oh, Councillor Gibson, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I say I'm looking forward to working with the Scrutiny Committee on those parts of my portfolio which are relevant. I'd just like to highlight the item which currently says invite the energy companies to outline how they plan and they deliver to services to new and existing and new homes. And I think that the committee would be wise to also invite the water companies, both supply and sewerage, into that debate as well. And I know that, that the South East Water did indeed give a presentation recently, but I think that the position has indeed worsened, certainly in the north of the district, and that now that the water company's strategy to 2025 is out for consultation, I think that that would be very worthwhile indeed. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Gibson. And I agree with the importance of involving the water companies. We've obviously had contributions of things that should be included. I was just going to ask if anybody disagrees with any of the comments raised so far, or whether any of the cabinet members, such as Councillor Bennett, have got any comments that they'd like to make in respect to their own portfolios or otherwise. So, Councillor Eggleston, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. To echo the thoughts of my colleague, Councillor Gibson, I do look forward to cooperating with Scrutiny on a range of matters. I hesitate to interfere because I think it's very important that Scrutiny is left to scrutinise the work of the executive, and it's very important that separation of power is maintained, and so you should be fully entitled to set the scrutiny programme that you like. The only word of caution, and the items that you wish to add to the list, I think are fine, and I'm sure as a scrutiny committee you will get to them. The only piece of caution that I would add is that in some of those areas there is some ongoing work taking place, and it's important that when something comes to scrutiny, it comes to scrutiny in a form ready to be scrutinised. So I would urge that in some instances, I can understand the enthusiasm for everything, and I share it, but I would ask that in some respects that we do exercise some patience to make sure that we bring an item to the committee that you can thoroughly investigate, and there is real substance and a real confidence on the part of the executive and the officers that there's a direction of travel that's going to reach a conclusion. And on some of the items that have been mentioned, we're not quite there yet.
Thank you very much for that that input, Councillor Eggleston. That's really helpful. And I'm also minded by one of the comments, I think, from the Chief Executive earlier, or from officers just around as well, focusing a bit where we can add most value into the scrutiny debate. So perhaps it might be one that we can ask officers, having listened to our comments and contributions today, to draft something that takes on board the comments made and suggests that work programme based on sort of what we've identified as priorities, and perhaps where we're not able, where things might not be so appropriate, we just can understand how they are dealt with through the council, or what other mechanisms there might be for for those ones sort of progressing, just so that we can make sure we've considered all the items in front of us. Would that be okay with the committee? Councillor, can I go to Louise first?
Yeah, I was just going to come back and confirm that. I think if the committee wants to take a vote on the broad discussion that we've had today, we can then go away and shape that, and as would always be the case, your work programme comes back on every agenda for you to readjust and realign.
Sure, thank you. Councillor Hemwood?
Chairman, you
wrap
did
up.
say once we put forward various suggestions, we could have an opportunity to prioritise what
Yep.
we felt. So is that open for us to put forward our priorities?
Yes,
at
I
this
think we're all
moment?
welcome if you want to add extra
Okay.
emphasis to any of them. I've mentioned a couple myself. You've already mentioned a couple that are
Okay,
obviously of
but
interest to
priority,
yourself.
it seems to me quite logical, Chairman, to me, that you've got Parks Master Plan and you've got Green Spaces Action Plan. And to me, both of those can be incorporated into what I've suggested as a up-to-date leisure policy, because it would incorporate both of those, because, you know, not all the master plans, like St. John's, okay, there's a master plan, but it hasn't been initiated. So I would like that as a priority. And I suppose personally, West Sussex County Council, yes, we need to have information, but we have little control. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Henwood. Councillor Bates, you'd like to come back?
Thank you, Mr. I thought we'd have come to this meeting with some idea of what we might be discussing on the 18th of October, other than maybe the housing situation. Is that my clear understanding of this particular meeting?
I think it's for us to decide what we'd like to
We're at a meeting, and we've got a timetabled meeting on the 18th of October without any agenda at the moment.
Okay, but that is nearly 4 months away, so you've already highlighted that there's been quite a few moving things with the new council cycle. We've a lot of briefings and bringing the cabinet up to speed. I'm quite comfortable, based on what we are saying as our priorities and based on the officers listening to our comments and input this evening, that they will be able to, in light of our conversations, bring forward an appropriate agenda for a full agenda for that and other scrutiny work programme, scrutiny meetings, which was one of the reasons we put ourselves down for these two committees going forward. So I hear what you're saying, Councillor Bates, but I think we can rely on officers to ensure that we've got an appropriate agenda for the 18th of October. Councillor Peacock.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I mean, I would go with, indicate what we would like to see, but go with what the officers recommend. They are the ones doing the work. As the leader has said, they understand where the work progress flow is, will have a good understanding of the importance. I mean, it goes without saying the district plan is very important. I think some of our 5-year land supply and the housing strategy, development strategy. I would personally keep green spaces and Parks Master Plan separate. I think they are two different things, or they are related to leisure. There can be a connection between the two, but I would personally keep them from observing separate, and I would wait for the officers' observations and comments myself.
Thank you. I think I take on board all those comments, the last few contributions. I think officers have definitely heard the direction that we would like to move in, and then it's just a question of what makes most sense and where there are sort of strongest links. So I'm happy to leave that in the officer court. Also heard from the leader of the council as well, and I know that those comments will be input. I think we can go to the recommendations. In light of those contributions, I'm happy to propose the recommendations that we've considered those items and that we have set out our aspirations for the work programme, and to leave it with officers to come back with a draft programme for the rest of the year, which we will then revisit in future scrutiny meetings anyway. I'm happy to propose that. Would someone second that? Councillor Bergwijn, you're happy to second that? In which case, could we go to the vote, please, on those items, on that item, recommendation? Okay, so the results are in front of us. So it has been carried by with 10 votes and 1 abstention. So thank you very much for everyone for their contributions on that item. Item 8, questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice which has been given. I have none, and so therefore, there being no other business for the Scrutiny Committee this evening, I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance, committee members and otherwise, and to anyone listening online, and we close the meeting at 7:38. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, members, for